What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, head of NWA Alwayz Ready June 11th. Got an emerging name in the wrestling world. You know the name. It's Morton. This time it's Kerry. Kerry Morton, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm busier than ever right now. You know, school just ended for me for summer break from school, university. So I just been on the road, man. I've been trying to make all these towns and make these shows and get better and better every day as I keep on going on.
So where do you go to college at, if you're comfortable sharing that?
No, I'm cool with it. I go to King University. It's a D2 university in Bristol, Tennessee, which we are recently big-time national champs for cheerleading. Nice. I just got a ring. I had it. I'm in the guest bedroom right now in our little office. As you can tell, all this wrestling ability behind me. But it's in my other room. But I have a big, nice ring, and I'm proud to show it off. It's an awesome accomplishment from a collegiate cheerleader. And man, that's just what a time it's been.
How do you find that helps you within the pro wrestling world? Because I mean, there's a lot of crossover there with the athleticism, obviously.
Right. So I'm telling you, the most part is really just, I think, balance. Learning how to all these wrestlers want to try these new crazy spots. I'm all for it. You know, me being young as I am, I love doing crazy interval stuff where I'll throw someone above my head and try to spin them into a hurricanrana off the top rope or something. I did that with AJ Gray, which was not a good disaster. But anyways, that's a whole other conversation. So it's really cool. You know, it's helped me a lot with technique, learning how to spot someone, learning how to pose, also kind of getting my acrobatic skills up a lot more. There's a lot of similarities between both of them. So it just all kind of depends on which way you want to look at the perspective of the sport.
So I mentioned NWA Alwayz Ready. You were in tag team action. I saw you last year, and I knew you had signed with NWA. How has that been for you so far?
Oh, man, it has been so exciting. I am actually, so now you say that, I'm not actually on an exclusive contract with NWA. I'm just on kind of as a pay appearance contract, which is great. You know, Billy's very supportive of that too, just because, I'm a collegiate cheerleader. NCAA athletes can now get paid, which is wonderful for us athletes being a broke college student. It's great. So, but I love the NWA. I'm thrilled to be there. I'm kind of continuing the legacy where my dad got his start and where my grandfather, kind of got hit his groove in the professional wrestling industry too. So it's a circle of life and it's beautiful. I really love the product of NWA. I love what we stand for, wrestling the way it should be. It's a big moniker that Billy always kinds of pounds it in people. So guys, we're be genuine and go out there and put on a show and show the wrestling fans, give them their money's worth.
You mentioned collegiate athletes being able to get the NIL deals. What year are you in college now?
So I just finished my sophomore year, so I have 2 more years of university.
So when you were in high school, that didn't even look like it was a possibility.
Not even a possibility at all. It was crazy the day it was announced, because I was actually, the day it was announced that like NIL contracts can go on and all that good sorts, I was on a plane coming out from an independent wrestling show up north, and all my friends in this group chat were texting me like, dude, we can get paid now. And I have a little thing with Future Legend apparel, which if you see my wrestling girl all the time, it says Future Legend apparel. It's a great little guy. It's a great company. They stand for a lot of monikers, but now that I can get endorsed by them and I can proudly represent them and put them on my social media pages and say like, hey, I'm a paid athlete now. Like, how exciting is that? Although it's not a lot, it's still super exciting to say, hey, like, this is a really cool and exciting time in life.
I know, and I know a lot of our viewers might not keep up with collegiate sports, but I mean, this was a big deal. I remember 10 years ago, one of my college papers was on pay for play, the idea of being paid for this. And as I was gaining information for this paper, I was with Kenneth Farid, who is an NBA player now. Yeah. He was signing curly fry holders at this restaurant. And then when he got up to the counter, he's like, I don't have money on my card. And I just realized it. And I was like, oh, do you want me to get this? And he's like, I think it's an infraction if you do. He's like, I'm not sure you're allowed to. And I would like in the course of doing that paper, there was a friend of mine who was on a Froyo poster. She had to be pulled from that, or else she was going to be declared ineligible from D1 soccer. So the ability to do this now, Jeff Hardy was kicked off his high school wrestling team because he popped up on WWE TV. And
I didn't know that. Are you serious?
Yeah, he said that his wrestling coach kicked him off his high school wrestling team because he's like, "Oh, you're doing professional wrestling," and Jeff's like, "That's not what this is, buddy. Like, it's not the same." So to be able to just throw all that out the window is like wonderful for a person your age, obviously. But I love hearing like the cheerleading background too, because I mean the athleticism involved in that is just unreal. But athleticism is something you've been around pretty well your whole life. Being the son of Ricky Morton, at what point did you go, I'm gonna wrestle? It's what I'm gonna do.
I feel like my whole life has been involving to the day I was going to step foot in the ring. You know, when I was in school, I amateur wrestled. I happened to win a state championship at that. And then I did professional theater. Right before I even stepped in the professional wrestling ring, I did professional theater. I toured of musicals. There's some posters in the background, as you can tell, too. Just some. They're all over this guest bedroom, so I hate that anyone's going to stay the night. They're going to read a little story of her life. But I did so many. I did the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which was one of the last big tours I finished before my contract came to an end in the when I was in high school. So, you know, it was all kind of involving my dad, my mom, which, you know, I'm so fortunate to have good parents that look out for me. They got me involved in acting and sports and vocal lessons and going to gymnastics or like a gymnastics gym of some sort, just to kind of I guess looking at the bigger picture of me, you know, one day, hopefully becoming a successful professional wrestler in this industry and making a name for myself and hopefully making a good amount of money and enjoying my career, my love for this industry.
And obviously, I mean, being the son of Ricky Morton opens up a lot of doors, but it also sets really high expectations right out of the gate. I know with positivity, there comes detractors as well. How do you sort of manage that and manage those expectations being so young in general, but young in the sport?
Well, that's a good question, Sean. You know, a lot of people, they always look at it's like, okay, you know, and especially speaking from a generational standpoint of a wrestling perspective, you know, I talk to these other guys, Brian Pillman, you know, Colby Carino. There's a bunch of names that come to mind right now, but I'm just saying that everyone expects us to be our fathers, and that's something that we can't do necessarily. We have to make a career choice for ourselves. You know, I'm not afraid to talk in the microphone. I'm not afraid to jump in front of the spotlight and speak my opinion. And quite frankly, I can't wait for the day till I get the opportunity to do more so. But right now, I'm just trying to get an edge on this sport, meet people, find new people, meet connections, you know, getting leads to go other places, the independent shows, and just simply get better. You know, I watch a lot of my dads, and my dad has a great moniker of being possibly, quite frankly, the best babyface in all professional wrestling, which is simply one of the greatest compliments ever, especially from someone that admires this sport. So, you know, it's tough, but I'm also just trying to create my own stone. You know, I'm trying to put my writing in the own stone this time, and also showing the edge to my father, and then kind of doing the kind of having his and mine in between.
Yeah, rarely does it seem like when someone tries to be exactly like their parent, does it work? And like, I wouldn't say that Charlotte's exactly like Ric Flair, but the influences are very heavy, but that's a gender switch too. She's a woman applying a lot of those characteristics, so it doesn't seem exactly like ripoff or something like that. It just seems like, well, she is her father's daughter type of thing. You don't see that as much in wrestling. Like The Rock is so much different than Rocky Johnson, and like he was such a success. And Randy Orton is so much different from Bob Orton. Like they've got some of the same traits, but they're so different. Are there things that you do to intentionally set yourself apart? Like maybe you do share some of those characteristics, but you're like, I'm gonna act a little bit different because I don't want people to say, "Oh, Ricky."
I do, and you know, my dad and Robert and a bunch of the older wrestlers that I talk, I still keep really good in contact with Dennis Condrey, Jimmy Cornette. You know, he's on me all the time. He watches my tapes. He'll send me a clip. He'll ask me what the hell I was doing, wrestling at some show, so and sort, but whatever. That's the part of it. But you know, they always tell me that your dad was always that young and hungry babyface, which is great. But me, I'm not afraid to speak my mind, and I'm a little cocky, I'm a little confident. I'm not afraid to show that. And that's something I think that definitely kind of shares apart from my father, coming from the underdog perspective, and knowing me, which I'm smaller in this business compared to a lot of other guys, but I'm not necessarily the underdog. I know what I have, I know what I'm capable of, and I know what I can bring to the table. And that's something that I'm not afraid to show on the microphone, or tell the promoters, or tell a fan that, hey, listen, this is just because I'm Ricky's son doesn't mean I can make my own name for myself.
You mentioned being on a non-exclusive contract that ended up paying off in a way. You popped up on MLW,
right,
and wrestled Devon Erichs, who, what a similar path. Man, that's like a common sense booking right there. Like, they're around, you're around. Why not do that?
That was sweet, man. Devon Erichs, those guys are such a fun time. I think when this is my first encounter meeting him the day of the show, and they were super like jet lagged. He lived in Hawaii, so like they flew in the day of the show. Like, it was crazy their trip, and just to go on there and wait the long show of MLW to main event the show, which was awesome as a debut appearance, the main event Major League Wrestling. So what those guys were great, and I happened to reach back out to those guys and saying, hey, it like works out in NWA, I'd love to come back, and I'm ready to just kind of keep on growing in this business. But if it's not, that's not the case, because right now I love where I'm at in professional wrestling, and I'm growing, I feel, as a human being and a wrestler, and I'm learning kind of like what works for me. And I have so many great locker room leaders, just a few that comes to mind. Nick Aldis, which is a great guy. He loves what I'm doing, and he's really high on me right now, and I'm very thankful for that. And then Thomas Latimer, what a genius he is in the wrestling ring, and Al, he has a great mind for this business. Billy Corgan, oh my gosh, I would say I haven't had many bosses in this early career. I had theater bosses and directors and stuff, but what a boss Billy is. He has such a great mind for this business, and I love hearing his stories, and love hearing what he's going to bring to the table in his vision, and trying to make it come to life. So I could ramble on and on. My bad. I'm just talking.
No, I love it. That's what we're here for. So when was your first match?
So my first match was actually, my first official match. I had a few matches at the School of Morton, which is my dad's wrestling school. But that was just kind of like thrown in the mix, get out there. So I wouldn't even count those as professional wrestling matches. But my first legitimate match when I made my debut in professional wrestling was March 13th of 2020, which was literally a week and a half before the pandemic actually started.
Oh, man.
So it was crazy. It was such a scenario, but I was in high school. It was my senior year of high school. We're about to go on spring break. It was that Friday is when I wrestled. I go to Winston-Salem for AML Wrestling, which, runs WrestleCade and all that good stuff. And I love those guys.
Love WrestleCade.
And they've been such a oh man, me too.
It's where we met.
Yeah, that's exactly where we met. I was just thinking that. I was like, that's where I met you at.
Yeah.
And man, I mean, those guys are great, though. They're really cool. They helped me get involved and helped me kind of make a name for myself early on in the independent circuit. So I got my start there, and I wrestled, I think it was either Zane Dawson. I think it was Zane Dawson of the Dawson Bros, which are two badass big men in the Carolinas that independent wrestling promoters that are listening to this, you need to book those gentlemen. But give them a little shout out, because, that's what I would love for. But anyways, those guys, I wrestled them, and it was such a great success, and the wrestling world is high, and my dad just put on his social medias that I was officially starting my wrestling career, and my schedule was booked immediately. Like, it was 3 months ahead of time, and then overnight the pandemic began, and everything one by one, it was like a day's time, and every single booking within that day span was just completely gone. So I went back to the books, man. I was fortunate in a way, because I went back to the books, and although I watched wrestling, when I did have my first official match, I watched wrestling in a different perspective. I watched it knowing, like, what can I do in this situation, or how can I make my opponent look better in that situation. So that was a really kind of come to life moment right there. I was like, all right, this is what I need. I needed this time to get better.
Yeah. So you've had in just those 2 years, the ability to wrestle some pretty interesting names. Enzo cutting a promo on you. Explain to me what that's like for you. I mean,
Enzo and I, we've had our battles. I'm not afraid to smack the hell out of him, and he kind of knows that. He's not afraid to smack the hell out of me either. I think that's why he likes me, because quote unquote he said, "Kid, you got balls out there." And I said, "Thanks, so I appreciate it." He's like, "I never wrestled someone that I called a spot to in the ring," and he said no.
That's funny.
He called something to me, and I was like, "Enzo, that's a little crazy." And I, in the ring, had been wrestled. And,
what was it? What was the spot, if you don't mind sharing?
It was kind of like, I'm going to do something. He's like, "I'm going to go to the top rope, turn around and catch me." And I was like, and here I am in the show. I was like, "All right, cool." And then I just looked at him and I said, "No, keep me in the head." And he kicked the shit out of me after that. But I, you know, like I said, I'm just kind of looking up for my best interest. It was in the heat of the moment. This building was so hot. Yeah. I can't exaggerate. I mean, it was so hot. We're all sweating the hell out of each other. We're going 20 minutes. I mean, legit, it's an armory, and it's jam packed. They all came to watch Enzo. It's kind of my first moniker, playing a heel. Yeah. And I just told him no. I was like, "No, we're not doing that, damn it." And so he told me I had balls, which he likes me, and I'm fortunate. I was going to actually wrestle Enzo June 11th at ASW in West Virginia, Beckley, West Virginia, for Steve New and Gary Danron, and they're a great promotion and a great state. But unfortunately, NWA called, and that's my obligation right now. So I said, "Hey guys, I have to make this occurrence, but I really, really am bummed out I can't be there, but I'll make it up in the future."
You also, a couple other names that I see that you've worked. Davey Richards, Shane Douglas, Mike Bennett, the Spanish announce team, the Maximos, who I just reported last week got a tryout to be the Spanish announce team in MLW, like the actual Spanish announce team, which is great.
No joke. Yeah. Happy for those guys. That's awesome, man.
So, I mean, you're wrestling a lot of these people that have decades and decades of experience and categorically different styles. Shane Douglas don't wrestle like the SAT. Davey Richards does not wrestle like Mike Bennett. So you are getting a taste of a little bit of everything.
You know, that's funny that you say that too. One of the best compliments I think I've received so far in this career, and I received this from the SATs, and also Shane Douglas and a couple other veterans, George South, the Barbarian, Tommy Rich.
I love that Barbarian's still working. I love it.
Bro, he is so crazy good. Like, Barb, and like what's so humbling is, you know, Barb knows my father, and you know, Barb is the veteran in the ring. You let him call the spots. Same with George South. When you get in the ring, you don't talk, you just listen. You just listen to them. And I think one of the coolest like moments that I realized that I'm doing something right in this business is when I stepped in the ring with Barbarian, and we're about 5 minutes in, and I'm just selling my ass off for him. And he's beating up on me, and the crowd's going wild. You know, we're in the South. It's a little bit, wrestling's a little bit different here. And he looks at me and he said, "You're a night off, kid. Thank you so much."
That's awesome.
And he calls me Moto, which is my nickname, Moto. And he said, and Barb has a heavy accent. He said, "You're a night off, Moto. You're a night off." And it was the best compliment ever. And George South, I'm in the ring with him, and Shane Douglas, for instance, too, and they're allowing me to call the spots. They're like, "Listen,
that's awesome.
That's wow!" Like it's crazy moment to think like these guys are wanting me to call the spots for them to do. Like that's in the ring, in the midst of the moment. They're like, "Hey, you do this now. It's what do you want to do? What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "Holy shit, this is awesome!" Like, and then you know when you get to the back and your emotions and the adrenaline runs down, you're like, wow, like they just allowed me to call like spots to them in the ring, and they did the spots and they loved it. And it was just like, you know, it's like, it's a pat on the back sometimes. Like, hey, you know what? You're doing something right, damn it. You're doing something right.
Want to know what's the toughest bump you've taken so far? The one where you felt it.
So that was the Tracy Smothers Invitational. It was me and AJ Gray from GCW, where he has me. I don't know what the hell I was thinking, quite frankly. I think this is like the third match in. I had 4 matches that night. I'm a little gassed. Cheerleading season's in its highest right now, so like I'm eating like 4,000 calories a day to like 4,000 just to kind of maintain my weight and hit the reps, and I'm bloated as ever. Which is, you know, I'm not afraid to admit I was bloated at the time. And like I was just like, it's cheerleading. I had to endorse like what we were going through. And he calls a spot, and it's a suplex off the top rope, but he's going to maintain the suplex for like the longest time. And he's like, all right, when you come down, he's going to hit your head out, and you're going to cross body me from the suplex.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, dude, that's sweet. Let's do it. And AJ, I didn't realize how much he was going to sweat during that match. And he is one sweaty son of a bitch, bro. And I'm telling him, like, AJ, we should change this up real quick. And he's like, no, let's do it. And he's so strong. Like, he doesn't even know he doesn't know his own strength, quite frankly. And he puts me on the top rope. And he just, I don't even have, like, leverage. He just lifts me. And, like, when we come down for the crossbody, my, like, knees hit the mat so hard. I thought I blew my knees out. No, knock on this desk. That didn't happen. But holy shit, what a pain. Jarred it through me. That hurt so bad. I went through a table a few times too, but like that was like hitting your knees is like stuff like stepping on a bunch of Legos, but 10 times as more. It just hurts so bad. So that's probably one of the most painful experiences that come to mind.
Man, you got a lot more in store. Like it ain't always gonna be a night off. You know what I mean?
Oh man, it ain't always gonna be a night off. I know that. I worked my ass off that night. It was a cool moment though.
We got NWA Alwayz Ready June 11th. I don't think the match is completely set yet as we film this. I believe it's a 3-way, correct?
It's a 3-way. It's AJ Kazana and a mystery opponent of some sort that, quite frankly, I don't know who it is. I don't really talk to the competitors much often, but no one knows. No one is given. And it's cool. That's the part about professional wrestling is my dad and I, we don't know what to prepare for. We're wrestling the fixers as well, which is 2 big ass dudes in NWA that been causing a little trouble recently, and we want to put a stop to them. So that's for sure.
What if they bring in Robert Gibson as the mystery partner?
That'd be kind of wild. That would that'd be a shock. I feel like just not only to the NWA audience or the boys in the back, but I think to the wrestling world, that'd be kind of wild. I mean, Robert Gibson.
We've seen like Dax and Cash go up against each other, a little bit here and there. So I think that'd be cool since they've sort of announced like this is them wrapping up their tag team run. I think that'd be a cool touch, even if not there, somewhere. I think that'd be great.
That'd be honestly really cool. I think the last time they wrestled each other was like WCW. I believe WCW, they did a little thing when my father turned heel for a little time because Robert got into an injury, and then they came back and went straight on to Smoky Mountain from there. So, yeah, I think so. I think they actually wrestled each other on an independent show in like 2004 because the boys, this is a funny story. I hear my dad talk about it all the time, that the boys were so bad that Robert and Ricky were going to wrestle that they ended up throwing them out of the ring and wrestling each other.
But I mean, like if you're at an indie show and that is like your impromptu main event, you're like, oh my god, I get to see something special here. Like, I think that'd be a fitting way to kind of get into this. I mean, your dad's still at it, and he's even said, he's like, oh, this doesn't mean I'm retiring. This just means like the tag team, we're going to the last tag team run. Has there ever been a point where you're like, Dad, wrap it up? Wrap it up. It's my time.
I've been thinking of that too, but honestly, my man, my dad's so happy. His spark, his love for wrestling, like blew up a couple years ago. I think it started back at Joey Janela's spring break when they wrestled Santana and Ortiz, and they just like, he blew up with wrestling emotion once more, and he absolutely adores this professional wrestling industry. And father time is catching up, but my father, he gets up every day at 6 o'clock in the morning. He's off to the gym. He's not back until about 9. From there, he's taking the dogs on a walk, or he's doing some business in his office of some sort. And then he's watching tape, and he's in a production call of NWA, or he's talking about some independent bookings, or he's talking of Roberts. I mean, he loves it. And I'm not the one to tell my father, like, hey man, you got to stop. But at some point, we've been talking about it recently. He, one of his big things, he was be an agent for a big wrestling organization, including the NWA, which is something he's kind of jumping into, but he's also, as of now, a free agent. So my dad can do a little bit of it all, and that's what I'm happy for him. He has a couple other adventures. He's wanting to start a coffee company. He's been really kind of high on. He's been talking to some people about that. So No, and Robert's on the other end. The farewell tour is coming towards the end, and nothing against Robert. He's family, and I love him. But my dad is always big on giving fans their money's worth, and Robert is just kind of beat up now. His knees hurt a lot. His hips are pretty getting kind of bad at the moment. So, it's just a part right now of like, hey Robert, you need to sit down sometime. It's time to kind of sit down, wind down a little. Let's do this farewell tour. Let's give the fans their money's worth once more, and let's go focus on something else in the wrestling industry.
I admire like all the different names they're facing too. Like one week it's like Lance Archer and Mr. Hughes. The next week it's like, well, here's Barry Horowitz. Here's the SAT. Like every week, like they're in there with somebody wild.
They love it. They even that's one of the things when they call promoters, like, who do you have us against? Like, we want to wrestle like some crazy people, which is cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, man, you do.
I love it. Well, NWA Alwayz Ready, June 11th. If somebody was on the fence about ordering this show, what would you tell them, Kerry?
Listen, this is a show that if you're looking for the old school feel of professional wrestling at its finest, and not necessarily sports entertainment, there's a little difference. And that's what I love about the NWA is, don't get me wrong, I'm a sports entertainer. I'm proud to admit that I am an entertainer. I come from the entertainment industry. But this is professional wrestling. You're not necessarily going to see high spot after high spot after high spot. You're going to see ground and pound wrestling, storytelling, professional wrestling. And that's something that if that's your piece of cake, then this is a show that you need to buy. This is a show that you should get and watch and devour into. Sit down in your recliner or your sofa of some sort. Get a bag of Munchos, which is my favorite chip, and enjoy wrestling as the way it should be. I'm really high right now in the NWA. I love the vision that we're going, and I know there's some big plans in the future. And I'm just trying to buckle up, get ready for these, because I want the wrestling fans to come along.
Well, guys, check it out. NWA Alwayz Ready, June 11th. I get the feeling this won't be the last time I talk to Kerry Morton. I think we're going to be talking an awful lot over the next few decades. I mean, maybe 4 decades based on your genetics.
I don't know about that long, but we'll see. That's like a marketing major right now. I don't want to work in that business that long.
Kerry Morton, thank you so much.
Sean, I appreciate you having me on the air. Thank you.
Until next time, guys, we're out. Hey, guys, this interview brought to you for the price of On the House by NordVPN.com/Fightful. Check out NordVPN.com/Fightful to check all your region blocked shows. Get pay-per-views maybe a little bit more affordably than usual. Avoid price discrimination. Browse securely. All that good stuff. You can also use the code FIGHTFUL. You'll save 70% off, plus get 1 additional month for free. And it's all backed with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, just let them know you get your money back. There's no risk. And this investment is going to save you money as well, if you so choose. I often find that when I'm traveling, there's certain shows that I can't watch because it says I'm not in my home area. NordVPN.com/Fightful takes care of that. Reminder, use that code FIGHTFUL if you want. Hit them up at NordVPN on Twitter and enjoy the interview.